You may have heard about this new film, One Battle After Another. A lot of people are talking about it. Rave reviews online. Stars Leonardo DiCaprio as a washed-up revolutionary trying to find his teenage daughter. You know, lots of reviews. What's our reviewer, Jason Gorber, think about it? Let's ask him.
The definitive voice shows up.
Yeah, that's right.
I will tell you what it is.
All right, last man standing. You tell me.
This film is great. The film is excellent.
Jason, thanks very much.
The film is overpraised by a bunch of Americans that actually really love the fact that it actually gives you hope. And I'm fascinated by that.
Oh, that's curious.
We talked about a film called Eddington a while ago, which played Cam. And a lot of people don't love Eddington. I get it. I really love it. But Eddington is incredibly bleak about the current state of our neighbors to the south. It basically, in many ways, equates different kinds of left-wing and right-wing domestic terror, essentially, and shows how the complete collapse of society is actually going to result in some really, really dark stuff. Paul Thomas Anderson has made a lovely, beautifully shot, incredibly well-acted, beautifully written story that uses revolution in the sort of grandest sense in a way in. And I think the deeper you look at Paul Thomas Anderson's film, probably the less you're going to get out of it. The more you take seriously the sort of politics of the film, the more the film will fall apart. But that says nothing against its absolute caliber as just an incredibly well done and exciting film. So Eddington, I think, may be a worse film, but is very much more interesting in terms of the people who are going to be writing essays about it. And I think Paul Thomas Anderson's film is just absolutely one of the best films of the year with incredible performances.
Yeah.
But it uses...
Including Leo DiCaprio?
Including Leo DiCaprio, but especially including... I mean, first of all, the women in this film are amazing. Chase Infinity, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, all amazing. Benicio del Toro is just a joy to watch, as he almost always is. But Sean Penn hasn't been this good in decades.
Oh.
He transforms physically in this role, and the way he walks and the way his teeth are sort of in his mouth. Like, it's a wild transformation, so that he is the yang to DiCaprio's yin. The film borrows it's based on Thomas Pynchon novel. It borrows a lot from Long Goodbye, but especially Big Lebowski. That there's all these other elements that are at play. It is shot exquisitely well. The music is incredible. It is absolutely one of the great films of the year. But I'm fascinated by the reaction of those, particularly my American colleagues, who are like, oh, it deals with revolution. And actually, the more you dive into its politics, the more the whole thing collapses. As opposed to Eddington, which I think a lot of them dismiss. They're like, oh, this is too bleak and too... And if I've
But
seen
we
what
latch on to hope.
Exactly.
Especially now.
Exactly. And that's it. And I think when you're in the middle of the tornado, especially down there, they are looking for something that, in a weird way, I am not suggesting that everything in this film happens, and I'm desperately trying to navigate around giving anything away, because I think it's a film full of surprises. I'm not sure how much, it's a little bit long. I think general audiences may not go along for the ride nearly as much as people who watch hundreds of films a year and are looking for that gem among all of them. I am not at any way dismissing the caliber of this film. It is an extraordinary movie. I just think, as somebody who's very interested in how films reflect the current state of the world and how they, as art, can actually reflect what's going on, in a weird way, this softens the blow in a way that something like Eddington did not. And I am fascinated about how these two films come from two very different perspectives. One that actually sort of, in a funny way, channels it is bleak, but it channels our desire that if we're good people, the good people will actually thrive. And that is not what Eddington does. And so I think One Battle After Another will be more successful because it is less nihilistic. So it's a film about anarchy that itself has a glimmer of hope, and because of that, I think as an entertainment, it's extraordinary. As something that's sophisticated, it's extraordinary. As a political analysis, it does not live up to it, and that's okay. And I don't think that films have to necessarily be judged by how they actually work within our greater societal thing. I just think the film is probably a little bit less smart than it probably thinks it is.
There are certainly those who would argue that its star, Leonardo DiCaprio, starring as a washed-up revolutionary out to rescue a teenager, may resemble his own life.
Very complicated. But DiCaprio is fantastic in this. He's obviously, he's talking explicitly that he's channeling the likes of, look, let's put it this way. I think Paul Thomas Anderson makes some of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
I think the closer you look at them, that the sort of depth isn't there. These are films that have extraordinary moments, but the master doesn't really get into Scientology in the way that it could. As opposed to the Coen brothers, a film like Lebowski that people sort of dismiss as the stoner comedy and is one of the most profound films ever made. If you look at Inside Llewyn Davis, if you look at No Country for Old Men, these are films that sort of superficially may feel like entertainments, but are incredibly deep about what they do psychologically, what they do politically, how they actually navigate this stuff. They're easier to dismiss, whereas Paul Thomas Anderson, I think, makes films that have elements of that stuff, but don't go quite as deep. We have both of these amazing filmmakers, both teams of amazing filmmakers. And again, I am celebrating the fact that this film, I saw it a day after TIFF ended, and I realized that I saw the best film that would have played TIFF if it would have played TIFF. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Jason Gorber, this is why we have you. Thanks very much.
All the best. Take care.
Jason Gorber, Metro Morning's film columnist and the editor-in-chief of ThatShelf.com.
ThatShelf.